Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to NEWSROOM. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But today is the 11th of November 2021, and these are the stories that we'll be discussing during the course of the show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with of course, the extended Troika meeting that is being held in Islamabad, where senior diplomats from China, Russia, the US, and Pakistan are going to discuss and are discussing the situation in Afghanistan, what needs to come out of it, and of course, the humanitarian issue as far as Afghanistan is also concerned. Shah Mahmood Qureshi Sahab also addressed the extended Troika today, and of course when he attended there was a lot of participation from different sectors that I told you about, whether it be Foreign Secretary Sohail Mahmood, Pakistan's ambassador to Afghanistan, special representative to Afghanistan, and many others. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, of the day concerns the COP26, and in a surprise twist of events, that China and the US have announced to work together to cut greenhouse gas emissions in the crucial next decade. Now, the world has been taken by surprise due to this joint collaboration between the two foes that have been on a warring path as far as trade issues are concerned or other issues are concerned. But when it comes to climate change, both countries want to work together. Our third story, ladies and gentlemen, is about the National Workshop Balochistan, which is a joint venture of the government of Balochistan and the 12th Corps of the Pakistan Army that is being held in Balochistan as we speak. We'll be talking about the vast array of participants of this national security workshop and what is the importance and vision of this workshop as well. In our next story, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking about Israel and how it has been spying on Palestinians through software that is known as a Facebook for Palestinians, or in other words, Blue Wolf. This is a software that has been used by the Israelis, and in a surprising revelation, this has been told by a soldier that Israel is using this on identifying Palestinians, and not only on identifying them, but also in streamlining them in different categories. We'll be discussing that in our story. Then finally, we'll be talking about Shahroz Kashif, who has been recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's youngest climber to summit the world's two tallest mountains, Everest and of course K2. We can see the picture of Kashif right in the parallel window, and he is just aged 19. So of course the youngest ever to have surmounted both the K2 and Mount Everest. Let's begin with our first story, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns the extended Troika. And of course, the representatives from the different important countries that are attending it, and the issue of the whole of this whole extended Troika is to talk about Afghanistan, its present situation, its future, how to tackle the humanitarian aid, and of course the crisis that is slowly engulfing in Afghanistan, and how to move forward with the countries, and of course work together with the neighboring country that is Afghanistan. Asma Wadud, who's a foreign affairs expert, joins us online. But before we talk to our guests, let's listen to what Shah Mahmood Qureshi Sahab, our foreign minister, had to say when he addressed the extended Troika meeting today.
The engagement with Afghanistan must not only continue but should be enhanced for multiple reasons. Nobody wishes to see a relapse into civil war. No one wants an economic collapse that will spur instability. Everyone wants terrorist elements operating inside Afghanistan to be tackled effectively. And we all want to prevent a new refugee crisis. Located next door, we have borne the brunt of 4 decades of conflict and instability in the shape of refugees, drugs, and terrorism.
Now, 4 points that were mentioned in detail by Shah Mahmood Qureshi Sahab today when he addressed the extended Troika is what we're going to discuss with our guest Asma Wadud. She's a foreign affairs expert. Asma, thank you very much to have joined us. Asma, you must have heard, of course, the little clip that we played of Shah Mahmood Qureshi Sahab. He identifies 4 issues. First, a relapse of civil war in Afghanistan. Then he talks about an economic collapse, and then the presence of terrorist elements and how they should not be allowed to infiltrate into the neighboring countries, and then to the prevention of a new refugee crisis. How do you see all these 4 elements in this current situation, and how important is it to tackle them, and how can we tackle them?
Extremely important. It's one of the most critical things that needs to be done at the moment. If you look at like that in the broader perspective, the longer we wait for the situation to resolve, the longer we wait for the situation to evolve, it will create a problem. We need more proactive, vigilant efforts to ensure that sustainable peace prevail there. Where actually, if you look into the matters, wherever a crisis is evolved, there is somewhere economic challenges underlying it. And at this moment, after passing through a collateral damage, Afghanistan is at the verge of a big, even bigger disaster if there is no proactive action taken right away. The world is waiting and watching and evaluating its
But Asma Badu,
pros and
let's
cons.
take this what you've just said. The world is waiting and watching, but is it really doing anything?
No, not at the moment. And this is what is creating this, which is enhancing the magnitude of this crisis even more. If no proactive action is taken now, after the winter, or when the winter booms, it will be uncontrollable, or the world cannot address it, even if they pull in their alliances together. It has to be done now, and very vigilantly and very proactively. That is what Shah Saab pointed out. The elements that aspects that he has mentioned, they will multifold, and the winter is just around the corner. Winter there will
It's
create a
almost there. It's
disaster
there. And in
that will
Afghanistan, the
surpass
temperatures
the
really
temperature
reach zero and
already
minus.
experienced.
That is true, Asma. But apart from that, there's another point that he's highlighted. I mean, that was the first one that he highlighted, was a relapse in a civil war-like situation, or a civil war in Afghanistan. That has been one of the fears that a lot of countries have had in the neighborhood, especially Pakistan. With this increasing economic turmoil, of course, the advent of winter, with the sub-zero temperatures that are going to touch Afghanistan, what is the likelihood of a civil war?
Actually, this is Afghanis are behaving contradictory to their actually innate nature. When the situation was resolved and after the US evacuation, it was something that the people were preempting will happen. But now they have opted for peace. But you cannot stretch their desire for peace too long when there will be an economic crisis, when they don't have anything to eat, when they don't have anything to clothe themselves. The things can go astray. This is in human nature. This is how the things evolve. The history has shown us in the past. They have shown shown commitment. There is no civil war-like situation at the moment. But if the world stretches the things a bit too far, there will be a certain level of situation that can contradict their commitment to
Such
peace.
a situation could emanate if things are not taken and action is not taken in due time. I think this is the very important that action be taken in due time. I'll refer to a tweet by Imran Khan Saab, and that also was posted today. He said Pakistan has always stood with the Afghan people in their hour of need. We have assured Afghan acting Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi and his delegation that we will provide all possible humanitarian aid to Afghanistan. He also added that we are sending essential food items, emergency medical supplies and winter shelters to provide immediate relief to the Afghan people, and also that we will be giving free COVID-19 vaccines to all the Afghans traveling across the border into Pakistan. And he has again urged the international community to fulfill its responsibility to avert this humanitarian issue that is slowly and steadily engulfing Afghanistan. Our Prime Minister, this is not the first time he has said it. Our Foreign Minister, not the first time that he has said it. On different fora they have addressed it. But what will really happen in order for the Western countries to translate all these words into action?
Sooner or later, they have to do it. It is not something that is like an option.
But Asma, sooner or later, I mean, under this condition, isn't sooner very important rather than later? Isn't, Asma, the term sooner very important rather than later? Later would be too late.
Yeah, sooner is very important. You're absolutely right. It is critical that the action should be taken right now and proactively. Pakistan has a history of standing shoulder to shoulder with our brothers, Afghani brothers. Always, through thick and thin, we have been there. Still, we are willing to go an extra mile to support our brothers there in their dearest need at the moment. They are passing through a very tough time. It's not all haze and haze there. They are passing through a critical time. They have been left after a collateral damage. They have been left alone by themselves, with no proper infrastructure, with no investment in any department, with nothing. Actually, the 22 years, it seems like the Afghanis have been put in the cave or a freezer, and then they have taken out and they left them
Agree?
there with absolutely nothing in hand. So
That is true.
now the thing is that sooner is critical. It has to be done proactively, vigilantly before the winter booms.
Of
If the
course,
winter
that is that.
booms there and if the situation get worsened, it will be very difficult. No matter how committed we are to help our brothers, they will suffer.
Asma, what are the expectations from the international community, especially from the West, as far as the Afghan Taliban government is concerned? Why is I mean, there must be something that is going through their mind due to which the aid is not reaching on time.
Actually, it always happens that way, that sometimes they're always dominated by their perceptions. Taliban government is trying hard to be accepted, like the way they have shown flexibility, the way they are crafting themselves, presenting themselves as a political entity, not as a roadside militia. The whole image, they have recrafted their image in a way, but the West is dominated by the perception they already have about Taliban, and they have to get out of it. Now, as they have agreed to sit with them on table, resolve the thing on table, now the next step is to overcome their perceptions and overcome their mind that they already have made about the Taliban. The moment they're able to do that, the whole situation will get escalated and will resolve very proactively.
All right, let's hope that this happens, at the very earliest, because we don't have any time to lose, and that is what one of the reasons of this extended Troika meeting is as well. How important is the role of China, of Russia, and of course of the United States? We know that there is a new United States ambassador to Afghanistan who's also going to visit Pakistan very, very soon. Now, in all of this context, does the US also understand Pakistan's perspective on Afghanistan and the situation in Afghanistan, or is it really more or less turning a blind eye to it?
The role of US has always been very, I think this is black and white regarding US role in this whole situation. It's always been grey. So they have to win the confidence of the people, to win the trust of the people, to get back in connection with Afghani people themselves. They have to do something extra now. Their role in this whole situation, we cannot discriminate it in between black and white. It's always been shady, it has always been grey. So that is their intention about Afghanistan and how they wanted it to unfold, or how they wanted it to come out, was never clear. Even their evacuation, I've written about it as well, I've talked about it as well, that who was it consequential or intentional? Were they forecasting a civil war here, or they were focusing that maybe this situation that we are facing at the moment, this region, this will evolve this way? Was it consequential, this evacuation, or was it intentional in the first place? So it has always been shady, and they have to take some concrete step to make the world realize their good intentions about this region, or their intentions to help Afghanis in the long run.
All right, let's come a little bit out of the US equation and let's talk about the conclave that was also held in India yesterday, talking about Afghanistan as well. There you had the Russians, you had the Iranians, you had the Central Asian countries, but you did not have either Pakistan or China. Pakistan, of course, had very clearly said that it will not attend this conclave in India because of the reasons that are quite evident, and China had scheduling issues. But nevertheless, China is coming to Pakistan. We are going to have Mr. Xia Yong, who is going to be leading his country's delegation. He's a special envoy for Afghan affairs. How important is also the role of China and Russia as far as seeking some kind of solution to the Afghan situation?
Yes. The whole trio, I consider very critical. Pakistan, China, and Russia. Like the Afghanis can get maximum out of peace with these neighboring countries on side with the ambitions and the goals they have for this region. This can change their future for good. This can change the destiny of Afghanistan. It was like left alone in the Stone Age. They can come and claim what they are entitled to in this contemporary world that we are living. And their role is critical. If the peace prevails, if the sustainable peace prevails in Afghanistan, it will be advantageous for Pakistan for sure, China, Russia, and the whole region.
Iran as
India
well.
has its own goals, has its own bubble targets. That's why it keeps itself away from this mutual gain endeavor that we are taking up. Else, if they can surpass their own personal interests, and if they can have a bigger goals for this, beneficial goals for this region, they can pull in and take advantage of this new era this region is standing on the horizon of. So the whole thing, it's like the role of China, Russia, Pakistan is critical for Afghanistan. And again, Afghanistan's sustainable peace is critical for us and China and
Of
Russia.
course, I totally agree. It's a two-way deal, and when there is peace in Afghanistan, stability in Afghanistan, there will be stability in the entire region as well. Thank you very much, Asma Wadud Sahiba, to have joined us, Foreign Affairs expert, talking to us about the extended Troika meeting that is being held in Islamabad, and of course, representatives from China, Russia, the US, and Pakistan are participating, and Afghanistan as well. Amir Khan Muttaqi Saab, who is the interim foreign minister, is leading his country's delegation here, and of course, Pakistan desires not only peace in Afghanistan, but also that stability comes, and the first thing in order as far as stability is that humanitarian aid reaches Afghanistan in due time, and their assets that are frozen by the different entities that be unfrozen at the earliest as well. Let's come to our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, that concerns climate change, COP26, and in a surprising move, the deal between China and the United States of America to agree to work together in order to cut greenhouse emissions by the next decade. More in the following report.
Climate change is the most debilitating challenge faced by 21st century world, and to circumvent the devastating consequences of climate-induced upheaval, enduring global collaboration is crucial. In order to meaningfully address the global climate woes, two momentous great powers, that's China and the US, agreed on a joint pact aimed at cutting greenhouse gas emissions in the decisive green decade ahead. The unprecedented announcement from world's two biggest emitters will see the two economic giants working closely with each other to stay within 1.5 degrees centigrade while sending a strong signal to the 190 plus other countries at the talks. The significant great development is a step in the right direction and presents a blueprint for countries to embark on a path of green, low-carbon, sustainable future jointly. This dramatic turnaround will further catalyze implementation of United Nations Glasgow Climate Summit draft, which emphasizes countries to phase out coal power and to undergo deeper cuts in carbon emissions by next year in order to reach a goal of limiting warming this century to 1.5 degrees centigrade. The text of the proposed COP26 draft, released Wednesday by the COP26 President Alok Sharma, urges countries to submit by next year targets for net zero emissions and plans for achieving them, as well as to boost shorter-term targets by 2023.
Now, in all of this dramatic change across the world as far as climate is concerned, we have a lot of apprehensions as far as the increase in temperatures across the world is concerned, and that is of course due to the fossil fuel emissions as well as the carbon emissions, and that is what China and the United States of America have agreed in a very surprising deal, because a lot of countries were not expecting both the countries to work together in any sphere because of the current tensions that exist between the two countries. Nevertheless, both countries have decided to go above and beyond and work especially in order to make the world a better place as far as climate is concerned. So nevertheless, this is a very important measure by the US and of course and China as well in order to cut these emissions in the next decade. And this is something that we'll have to see, of course, as are the other pledges that have been made during the COP26 in Glasgow, whether it be, of course, cutting down of carbon emissions or the fossil fuel. The need is not just to talk about it or publish papers about it, but to translate all of that into action. And that action is extremely important for the entire world, especially for countries that are as vulnerable as Pakistan, because we are in the top 10 countries that are extremely affected by this menace that is climate change. We are doing what we can, whether it be the 10 billion tree tsunami or, of course, going towards clean energy, or all the other measures that our current government is effectuating and implementing in order to bring Pakistan out of this current crisis that it is as far as climate change is concerned. Nevertheless, it's also the responsibility of the Western nations, of the important nations across the world, whether it be the United States or the others. The United Kingdom, of course, seems to be extremely serious by the way it has said the different messages during COP26 about its pledges in order to cut greenhouse emissions as well as fossil fuels. We've been joined by Naureen Fatima. She's an environmentalist. Naureen, thank you very much to have joined us. Naureen, did it come to you as a surprise, this engagement by both China and the US to work together?
Yes, Omar, it's a great news for all of us, because when back in 2015, Paris Agreement was signed, almost every country or majority of the countries signed it except US. And yesterday was a big surprise for the whole world, because both US and China, the biggest world GHG emitters, will collaborate and work together in order to reduce the global GHG emissions, and will try their level best to reduce the world's temperature to 1.5 degrees centigrade. It's a great news, seriously. We all are amazed from when we heard yesterday that when these two world big economies will work together, it will also give confidence and strengthen the trust of the developing countries. And when all the countries will work together, that will definitely will play a significant role in combating this global climate change externality of 21st century.
And at the cost of being overtly optimistic, let's also say that if China and the US can work together in cutting greenhouse emissions, they maybe can work together in other spheres as well, and maybe resolve or dissolve all the tensions that exist between the two countries as well. That would be a huge sigh of relief for a lot of countries across the world. Nevertheless, the pledges that have been made, whether it be by China and US to work together to cut the greenhouse emissions, or by the other countries during COP26, how important is all of that to be translated into action at the earliest?
Yes, as we heard that Joe Biden's yesterday's pledge to double the US climate finance, and other countries are also were sharing their pledges. But the most important thing is that we need to cater and we need to think about the poor countries. We need to finance, especially the vulnerable countries. If all these vulnerable countries will also be included, then I think it will be easier to combat this externality and will save our planet, not only for us, but also for our future generations.
There are also apprehensions and reports that the current world temperature is going to increase by more than 2 degrees if action is not taken in the right time. Do you feel that, I mean, I'd come back to my earlier question, do you feel that all these pledges that have been made by the different countries that will be eventually translated into action quicker than anticipated?
Yes, I guess now when we consider these last 2 decades, we have seen great climate changing impacts, especially in Pakistan back in 1999 to 2018. We have witnessed around 152 different extreme events, and all the world is now realizing. And when the global world, two bigger economies will collaborate and work on reducing these emissions, will definitely will impact the whole world. And this time when back in 2015 till in COP21 till COP26, we have seen great advancements. Like in 2 days back in the COP26, we were also discussing about the carbon embedded materials, that and we came to know that the concrete and steel are the 15% our GHG emissions come from these two bigger components. So this time we have seen more impact, and everyone is talking about, and it seems that yes, climate is real.
Climate is definitely real, but are the major players cognizant about it?
I think after yesterday, we all are very hopeful that when we all countries will take this climate action and will pledge to work on the pledges they have shared yesterday, will definitely at least will pay play and will reduce in reducing the temperature to at least to some extent, because we cannot revert it back. But what we can do is to avert its impacts by taking adaptive actions and mitigations. And most importantly, Pakistan is doing great job. In Pakistan,
Of course,
NDCs, we
that
have
cannot be
seen.
denied. That cannot be denied, and a lot of other countries, including the United Nations, has also appreciated Pakistan's efforts as far as alleviating the
Yeah,
effects of climate change is concerned.
yeah. As we can see, the 10 billion tree tsunami project
Of
and
course,
the protected
the
areas.
clean energy
Yes,
initiatives of Pakistan as well, and so many other initiatives that are taking place across Pakistan, and that's extremely important. But what I want to understand is the different reports that come that are, of course, extremely worrisome for climate change across the world. Uh, on the one hand, the countries are pledging. On the other hand, they are also relying on their economy, and that economy is fossil fuel or carbon emission based or coal based. Do you feel that
coal
the
based.
transition could happen in due time, or do you think it will take a lot of time for these important countries who are, of course, dependent on coal based economy to change for the better?
Yes, as we have seen that Pakistan have also aimed to shift to 60% renewable energy, and it will completely ban uh, coal ban by the end of 2030. Maybe their timelines will maybe differ to achieve, but I think we can start from the baby steps, and with few actions, or if we work in a strategic manner, so it will definitely help us in averting the adversities of climate change.
But Naureen, I mean, that is Pakistan's case. What about the United States of America? That is also based, I mean, that is dependent on coal-based economy as well. Do you feel that they could really accelerate the procedures in order to reduce their dependence, or do you think it is going to take time?
But I think US is the world's biggest economy, and I think it's not difficult for him. Maybe it will take some time because it's all economy is dependent on coal. But when it has taken it seriously and it has shared big pledges. So I think it will take US will take it seriously. Maybe it will take some time, but when it will implement it in a strategic manner, it will work on reducing and shifting to the renewable energy, as majority of the developed countries like China is already shifted to renewable energy. So the US will definitely work, and they can work with even China because they will collaborate, and their major key areas are of collaboration is on energy, industry, and transportation sector. So hopefully some bigger surprise will come to us. They will collaborate and work together in averting the impacts of climate change.
All right, Naureen, let's also now revert a little bit back to our main issue, that is China and the United States agreeing to work together. We all remember Joe Biden criticizing Xi Jinping for not attending the Glasgow summit, saying that he had agreed to walk away. I mean, and despite all of that criticism, both countries still decide to work together to alleviate the effects of climate change. Do you feel they can eventually thaw their differences, starting with climate change?
I think while considering climate change, and we have also heard the statements that although we have some differences, but for the climate urgent challenge, we are here to work and collaborate to reduce the carbon emissions in the next
That was what
decade.
Xi
So
Jinping said, of course.
yes.
Uh, hmm. But I
So
mean,
let's hope for the best.
what I want to understand from you, Naureen, is that, you know, despite the differences, do you feel that both these countries that are more or less at loggerheads can decide to work together when it comes to climate change? Or, I mean, it's one thing to decide in principle, but then, you know, when you are eventually working together, do you feel this is a possibility or a strong possibility?
I think when considering and pledging at this global level in COP26, so I think they have already discussion, and I'm sure when they said that they will work together and they had shared their pledges, so there will be possibility and they will take this seriously, because after 5 years, they have also considered it that climate change is real. When back in 2015, only US was the one who denied Paris Agreement, but now it has also considered it seriously. So let's hope for the best that they will work together, and it will not only strengthen the trust of developing and the developed countries, that they will by helping each other, like in form of climate finance fund, especially to the vulnerable countries who are more vulnerable to the impacts of climate change in terms of tsunamis, floods, and droughts. Let's hope whether they will contribute together, and this is the way we can work together, because it's a
All
global
right.
issue. We cannot neglect any country.
Naureen, also a
Saying?
lot of countries have pledged long-term measures as far as alleviating the effects of climate change are concerned, whether it be cutting down on emissions or, of course, their slow and steady reduction of dependence on coal usage. Nevertheless, do you feel any short-term decisions that have been pledged by certain countries during this COP26?
I've heard more that this year more focus was on the more focus was on that they need to make such implementable short targets to be achieved rather than big ones, so that at least at short term level we can reduce them. And what we can do is that by introducing the concept of civiculture, that is a way that can sequester our carbon emissions. Although it's difficult to shift to totally to renewable resources, but this can be done by increasing the protected areas, by increasing the forest cover. We can absorb the carbon emissions that will help us in reducing the global atmospheric temperature to some extent.
That is so true, Naureen. I really hope that, you know, the world understands the importance and the gravity of the situation, and the whole pledges, all the entire pledges that have been made during COP26 and will continue to be made are really, really, and I really sincerely hope translated into action at the very earliest, so that if the US and China can decide to work together on climate change, I'm sure many other countries can also decide to work together as one. The world needs to be at one single platform when it comes to alleviating the effects of climate change. And COP26, you know, 26 such meetings have happened to date.
Yes.
It is high time that by the time COP26 happens, a lot of those pledges that have been made in COP26 are eventually already have been put into action. Let's hope and let's pray for all of that. Thank you very much, Naureen, Fatima, Environmentalist, to have joined us and to have talked to us about COP26 and the development, a very positive development that has come of China and the United States of America pledging to work together to curtail the greenhouse emissions. It is a healthy development. It's a very hearty development. We really hope that if the US and China can begin with working together on climate change, maybe, who knows, in the coming months and years, they might also be wanting to work together and, of course, look at all the issues that pertain to both the countries and maybe work things out, so that if these two countries can work things out, maybe a lot of other issues that are, of course, pertaining to the world and the geopolitical situation across the world could also go for a healthy outcome or a better outcome than what is expected right now. We all want the world to be a better place, and I think climate change is one of the things that need to be tackled with very sincerely, very earnestly, and in a very quick fashion. Let's go to our next segment, ladies and gentlemen. That concerns the National Security Workshop that is being conducted in Balochistan. Pakistan Army and the Balochistan government are organizing this 8th National Security Workshop in Quetta. It began on the 1st of November 2021. It's going to continue till the 27th of this month in Quetta. Bilal Latif, who's the head of social media PTI Balochistan, joins us. Bilal, thank you very much to have joined us. Could you give us more details about this National Security Workshop? What are its visions, its objectives, and what do you plan to get through that? Because there's a huge participation from different sectors of the society.
Thank you so much. My name is Salman. You said Bilal, it was
yes,
corrected.
Salman.
Actually, yes, the 8th National Workshop Balochistan is being conducted in Quetta, and it's a great adventure of Pak Army and government of Balochistan. And it was started from 1st November and it will be till 27th November. And the brave and courageous people from all cities of Pakistan, not only from Kashmir, not only from Balochistan, but all across Pakistan are participating in this workshop. And obviously, Pak Army, credit goes to them for providing us security. And obviously, the government of Balochistan is doing a great and wonderful job. Because the misperception and the communication gap between the provinces and the people, and as you can see in social media, the false perception, to avoid the false perception, we unite together to see the real issues, the real, because Balochistan is future hub for Pakistan and its economical importance. To understand Balochistan's importance in economy, this is the main motive of this workshop. So as you see that if anything happen in anywhere, so you have to go to the venue for investigation. So Balochistan is misinterpreted in media and in social media. So for avoiding that and to tell people that Balochistan is great potential, Balochistan is great in agriculture, and it's called the fruit garden, and there's many potential in businesses. And we were briefed about CPAC and the Belt and Road Initiative. So the
there's a huge scope as far as this National Security Workshop is concerned, Salman, and that is what the aim is, to bring people from different strata of society and make them understand the different modalities, the scopes and different narratives as far as Balochistan is concerned, so that they understand the province, that is Balochistan, in a much better fashion, also understand the security narrative of the province as well. Now, when we talk of different participants that are in Balochistan as we speak till the 27th of this month, do you feel a collective resolve of the people from different segments of the society is also very important in order for people to understand a province or an area in a better fashion?
Let me tell you here that not only from a National Assembly, but member of parliamentarians from National and Provisional Assemblies are also there, media persons and some of the activists all across the Pakistan, and the big and the intellectual minds are there. So obviously there is no any doubt that after this workshop we will suggest, and in daily basis we are being briefed by the high official, government official, secretaries. We are being briefed by the issues. We are being briefed by the upcoming projects and the potential in the investment. So after the workshop, we are submitting our ideas, sharing the ideas for the concerned department. Because I'm leading PTI social media team in Balochistan, and I'm a digital media strategist. So as a digital media strategist, I think that digital media optimization is very important. So
that is so true. I think digital media, Salman, to be very frank, is the future, and that is the form of media that people refer to a lot, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or the other platforms, WhatsApp also. So I think it's a media that needs to be worked upon in a proper fashion, so that the narrative that is built through those is the proper narrative, the true narrative of different areas, of different provinces. That includes also the different scopes and issues that pertain to different countries and societies. Thank you very much, Salman, to have joined us.
Thank you so much.
You were talking about the National Security Workshop, Balochistan, that is being held in Quetta from the 1st to the 27th of November. We wish the participants all the very best. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new segments and stories that pertain to us and to Pakistan. Stay tuned, stay blessed, stay safe, follow the SOPs. Allah Hafiz.